Okay, I'm so honored and delighted to have on the podcast today Selima Lust of Iwilla Remedy. She's a partner with Tammy Lust, and they have a really beautiful herbal education and herbal line. And I discovered your work, Selima, I don't know, maybe it was a year or two ago, and I've just been a fan ever since. I love your newsletters and your YouTube videos and your Instagram posts. You just provide such rich information and really break down myths and help bring forward just the magic and the power of herbs and how they can be so helpful in people's everyday lives. So thank you for what you do. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. I didn't know you were getting all of the information. You got the email list, everything. Thank you for having me and inviting me to share.
Yes, absolutely. I'm curious, maybe diving in, I'm always curious like how people get into herbalism, if that feels like a good starting point for you, like what brought you to this path? Because it's always oftentimes a wandering path that brings us here.
Very much so. And it was born out of my own personal health journey. And actually, Tammy, my wife and business partner, she's the one who got us started on the natural holistic path. We were just experiencing lots of different pains. I had tons of musculoskeletal pain, tons of digestive issues. I was having hot flashes. It was so much, and like really bad acne flare-ups along my arms, my back, my chest. And we just weren't receiving the solutions and the care that we wanted and we desired. So she's really the one that spearheaded us diving into the natural holistic realm and like diving into herbalism. And I was so skeptical, which is really funny. Like given now, right? Like I was so skeptical that I really just kind of sat back and watched and observed her to see if she was getting results. Not that the results that, what we were doing was working,
Right.
but she started seeing results and I was like, okay, let's do this. Like, I want some.
Yeah, amazing.
And then, the more we dove into it, we decided to learn from Karen Rose out of Sacred Vibes Apothecary.
Oh,
We had launched our own line. And it's funny because I think all other people can relate to this as well, in the sense that, you feel results for yourself and then
mhm.
you want to help other people. So you launch and you help other people. And soon we quickly realized, like, wait a minute, we actually need to learn a whole lot more about what we're doing before offering, we were offering products, but like we should really learn more. And
Mm.
the path just continued. It really did. And so much well, I'll kind of describe what I see is and what I experienced is that all of the doors on what I had planned for my life started just closing. and
Mm.
and the paths of healing just continued to widen and to open. And I realized that I had a whole bunch of childhood trauma that I needed to heal. And in doing
Mm.
so, all of the physical discomfort actually went away.
Mm.
And I just
Wow.
kept staying in the work. And so I realized, like, oh, light bulb moment, like this, I think this is my work. Because I
Yes.
just never took my head up from the plants from the time we, bought that first bottle of lavender essential oil. It's
Mm.
been full on.
Wow. That's so beautiful. And I've seen some of your posts about healing trauma, and you have some courses around that work as well. And just, I think that is so profound because our culture, in the US, everyone experiences trauma, like big T, little t trauma is just like being a human on the planet right now is brutal. So I think, we all have healing to do. So I love that you have dove into that work yourself to help to kind of clear some of those layers and work through that. And then you're able to help other people as well.
Yeah, I really believe that it's the internal wounds in that conversation that we have within ourselves, within our mental and emotional spaces, be it good or bad, right? I think that's really at the crux of all healing work. And I was just talking to a friend today. She was experiencing shoulder pain, and we were talking about the emotional connection. And then she ended up having a conversation that was so pivotal that the pain went away immediately. And it's like there was all of this, that was showing up on the MRI. And it's like back to normal because of leaning into that emotional work. It's like the body's giving instructions. and
Ooh.
we need to be the recipients of it. And the more we can just honor, it's the late manifestation. Like we really do know when this tension is building inside of us. And the sooner that we can handle it, the better. It doesn't have to escalate into a physical pain, but in many cases it does, and that's okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that grace and that beauty and that idea that like, yeah, the body gives us instructions and it will get louder and louder if we don't listen. And so I've been on that. I've felt that as well myself. It's not not a fun ride, but it's just kind of like insistent. Our body, the issues are in our tissues, and it's like we have to listen.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a beautiful check and balance. I think it's a beautiful mechanism for us to just develop more awareness when we have pain, when we have those disharmonies. It's an invitation. When we feel triggered, it's an invitation. There's work to do. There's something to address. It's okay.
Mm, yeah, I love that. I'm curious, in working with plants and healing trauma, can you think of a story of yourself or somebody you've worked with where you've seen that kind of just melt away, the pain, or just how that interaction can sometimes unfold?
I can definitely continue to share, my own story. It really was when I realized that I had been suppressing, childhood sexual abuse, and it had been so long. Like it had been probably like 10 years in between that first note of like, oh, I think something happened.
Mm,
But I'm
mm,
not ready to deal with it. And then through that process, my health continued to deteriorate. And then really having that moment of like understanding I need to address this core issue, like this is a core issue. And it just embarking on the work, like honestly being immersed in awareness and in how I'm thinking and in reaching for a new thought, like reaching for a better reaction, deciding to move past the physical triggers, deciding to like bridge parts of myself that had been so separate for so long, like coming back into my body. It really, I can't remember like the moment when I realized like, oh my goodness, I don't have any more pain. Like everything feels good, but it just lifts. It just
mm,
does. It just lifts. And I hear it a lot from my students as well. Like when they're immersed in their work, they're either their creative work or their artistic work and their healing work, but it's the energy from which we approach it, right? But when they're immersed in it, the pain lifts. We feel this relief. And I believe that relief, like that's our first kind of breadcrumb to continue going. And that relief gets sustained the longer we do it's that inner calling, the longer we do the things that our spirits are led towards doing, it really does lift. Sometimes it's immediate, like with the friend I spoke with this morning, but sometimes it's gradual. But we also, and Tammy and I were talking about this the other day, there's that distinction of knowing when we have to let go of these wounds and knowing, like doing that, there's the letting go, and then there's the not picking back up. Sometimes when
mm.
we experience relief, or we get afraid, or we anticipate it's going to come again, and then we start to go back into those old stories, and so we end up picking things back up because we're so used to being in, whether it's in high levels of stress or in really depressive states, we can pick it back up. And so there's two parts to that, right? To like
Mhm.
experiencing relief. It's like learning to let go and then also training yourself to not pick it back up and reach for something else.
Ooh, yeah, there's so much mental training and mental work and just self-awareness that has to happen for that all to unfold. And so it's always helpful if you can have like a team of people or like a web of support, just to have not just one person resourcing you, but plants, people, friends, family, like it all kind of comes together.
Right. Healing should happen in community. I don't think anything we do truly alone. We're in a relational experience. We're meant to interact and to receive and to give to others as well. And healing is definitely one of those things where we need to allow other people into our experience. I would say that's been a huge part of what was supportive of my own journey was the fact that I had a Tammy, that I had teachers, that I had friends, I had mentors, that people that I could confide in and ask questions, or just to state out loud, this is what I'm experiencing, and have someone hold that space.
Yeah, that's so profound to have that. And just, yeah, because it requires multiple ways of approaching things sometimes, or just letting yourself be with the pain of it and like drink a cup of tea and let it unfold and journal or meditate or go on a walk, like move things through the body. There's so many different ways of healing.
And the plants are so profound. Like, most people just underestimate plant work. It's like
Mhm.
the therapeutic support is, I feel like, one small aspect. It's really those emotional and mental shifts that working with plants gift us. And
Mhm.
they gift us this spaciousness, as we're developing greater awareness of what we're thinking and how we're feeling, and we're acknowledging that and we're releasing it. There's this invitation of, what will you bring into this space? Because you have relief, that means there's openness. What will we bring in? And that's the gift. I think that's the gift, and that's the question, and that's the crossroads. And that's the
Yeah.
deciding factor of, like, are you going to stay here or not?
Ooh, it gives me chills. Yeah, because I think sometimes when we're in that like trauma pattern, we're not used to, it's hard to let it go. It's hard to just like, like you said, like put it down. And are you going to pick it back up? Because oftentimes I've picked up my whole trauma and been like, this is me. You identify it with yourself. And so it's like, okay, how do I not identify with this and like set it down, let it go, let it be compost for the earth and like become something else.
Right. And I think it can be scary because we don't know what's on the other side of that, right? Because we're so identified with what we've experienced and who we've become as a result of our experiences. Now we're saying, okay, I need to let this go, but I need to cross this bridge. What's on the other side? It just looks blurry, like
Mhm.
the vision's not clear. And I think that so much a part of my work is helping people to feel inspired to move forward because joy awaits. It's like, it's going to be better. That is a guarantee. That doesn't mean that you're never going to experience challenges again. You're a humaning, and people are wild. So,
Yes,
right,
yes, we are.
crazy.
Yes.
Like, let's all acknowledge that Earth is crazy. So
Mhm.
you're going to have new experiences, but you'll also be more resourced, right? Having gone through this doorway of healing your own traumas, but it gets better. It gets so
Mhm.
much better. That's
Yeah.
at the crux. It's like joy awaits you. It really, really does.
Oh, I love that. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I'm curious, is there like a special way that you've helped people get over that like hurdle, that bridge of like that fear of the next step and stepping into that joy? Because I feel like I know that that's probably a really tough question to answer, but I'm just trying to imagine like for me, I know flower essences just kind of naturally take me there, or Tulsi just takes me there. I know you did a video recently on Tulsi, and I was like, yes, oh my God, Tulsi.
Yeah, Tulsi is incredible. Mimosa has been such a beautiful ally
Mhm.
lately. In the last year, really working with Mimosa and moving through grief. And so many people want that like immediate shift. And I feel that particularly with Mimosa, of like having that pit in the stomach, feeling nervous, take a few drops of Mimosa and it lifts. But I
Mhm.
really think that it's the work, of course, right? It's awareness, but it really is in that moment of when you feel relief, what do you do?
Mhm.
What do you reach for? Like, we can take gradual steps towards just accepting the pleasure and the joy and the relief and the gratitude that we feel right now in this moment. Like, everything is working out really well. And I think people have to, I don't know, reach for those maybe small delights, those moments of appreciation, and realize like that is solid earth under your ground that you can count on. And you can count on more of that happening as you continue in your healing work. Like, I think, trauma creates distrust. So,
Mhm.
and when we're not trusting, whether it was because of a relationship dynamic, because of a parent, because of circumstances in early childhood or life, when there's distrust, it doesn't really matter what caused it initially, that begins to radiate out, and it begins to be what we experience in all of our relationships, and in our relationship with ourselves, and in our relationship with like this beautiful experience with life itself. And so we have to repair that trust and not think like there's an okey doke coming, like the universe has a trick coming for us, like I'm going to lean into this work and then shit's going to hit the fan. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not a joke. There's no okey doke. The rug is not going to be pulled from under you. And then we can trust those small wins and continue going, like just continue going, that you will continue to be supported.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Everything you're saying, it just reminds me of this book that I read recently, The Gap and the Gain. Have you heard of it?
I haven't. That sounds good.
Sorry, I just had to plug in my computer. So the gap and the gain, it's basically about if we're measuring how far we need to go or if we're measuring how far we've come. And so like a really simple practice that they recommend in the book is just writing down, like at the end of the day, writing down 3 wins from your day. Like what were 3 wins? Like what were 3 awesome things that happened? And then you can maybe think of like, what would be 3 awesome things I would love to have happen tomorrow? And just making that intention before bed just kind of builds this excitement for the next day, helps us to feel more inspired and want to get out of bed. Because I think without that, sometimes it's like, oh, what am I going to do today? But if you are like planning wins for yourself, it just can build. So it makes me think of that, just the way that idea of like celebrating wins, feeling like the universe is there for you instead of like against you.
Right. I love that, because so much when we're anticipating the future, we're thinking of worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we reframe and actually anticipate and predict that good things are going to happen? And that the small things count, I think,
Yes.
and maybe it's just in my mind, I go to the big goal, I go to the big achievement, the big win, and we can miss, and well, one, that can be overwhelming, right? Because we expect that to come sooner, but all of those big wins and those big celebrations are because of small actions that we took consistently.
Yeah. Like I wrote down some wins the other day and it was like, I took a bath.
Yeah.
I packed my lunch for work the next day. Like, like it doesn't have to be big, like just the little things actually, like you're just saying, the little things are where things can build and that momentum can build and it can reduce that sense of overwhelm. Like, when you're thinking of your wins for the next day, it doesn't have to be like, I don't know, building a whole website or something for your business. Like it can be.
I uploaded 3 of the pictures.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. There you go. That's a lot.
That is a lot, right?
Yeah. It builds.
To make in a day, that being able to bring resolution to a few activities can feel really good.
Yeah, definitely. It makes me think about the way that you offer and speak about entrepreneurship as well. Like you have a course on spiritual entrepreneurship. And I think I'm realizing in herbalism and nutrition and doula work, like just all the things that I'm involved in, that you're involved in, like there's an education component to help people see like the value and the way that this work can benefit people. And, you're kind of putting down these roots, building this foundation for your business, for things to like grow and evolve. And it's just such an interesting process. So I'm curious if there's anything you want to share about your experience with like building this business and helping people.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And I think I've been in the season of realizing how entrepreneurial this space is because of there's just no infrastructure, right? We're not physicians, so we can't just like go on Indeed and look for, a medical job and look for like
Mhm.
there's just no systemic infrastructure like that. And so
Mhm.
everything really does comes from scratch and it comes from
Mhm.
this creative place. So it really does come from creativity, but I feel like it can be a lot. I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Like it can be a lot. And the tactics of things because of like social media and algorithms and the way in which we have to promote ourselves, the tactics can change over time. So what I like to think about and like what's in the marketing class for spiritual entrepreneurs is what's the mindset behind some of the tactics that we have to learn, right? And execute for the time. Like, what's the mindset that we need to adopt? And so much of it can be around just feeling comfortable being seen,
Mm.
seeing your work as an offering, like it's a cup of tea. You can
Mhm.
enjoy it. I can witness you enjoying it, or you cannot. It's okay. Like we make it because it comes from us, it can be so personal sometimes, but really stepping back and viewing it as an offering, viewing our work as an extension, like our business work as an extension of our creativity, all of our social media posting and all of our content as just sharing and contributing. Because the portal of social media can make you feel like you have to be like number one, doing the best, doing the most, being the expert, having the most followers, like, and that blurs the work. That
Mhm.
blurs the messaging where if it comes from this place of creativity and like, oh my goodness, I just learned this. I think you should know this too. Then I think it could be fun. And I think it could be just as fun as the medicine that we offer.
Mhm.
But it is a lot. We have to learn a lot of skills.
Yeah. Oh my God, for sure. I mean, it's like video editing, audio editing, SEO, building websites, photography, copywriting, it's just
Fun
to,
and like
yeah, which I've only like begun to tap my toe into all of that. Like I'm just still a little baby in the world of business, but it's fun to start to learn. And I like what you're saying, like that idea of like bringing joy, bringing play, bringing creativity and our passion into the work and thinking of ways that we can just help people. Like, okay, how can I make a post that is like inspiring or helpful in some way? Because that's something that I really think with everything that you're putting out is everything that you create, I'm just like, whoa, this is such a benefit to the community. Like oftentimes you'll like dispel myths of like how to brew tea and like what is helpful, what is not helpful. And so, I think that idea of just like, it doesn't have to be complicated. You could just like share one little tidbit of like something that is helpful.
right. Right. And I think that I've overcomplicated it for a long time too.
Mhm.
By trying to, cram too much into a post, like people need to understand, thinking that people need to understand all of the nuances. But it's like, that's a little challenging on social media. So it's like, how can we tailor it back? So I think that can be a struggle that people face too, and thinking that I have to give every detail, which when it comes to something like herbalism, when it comes to the body, when it comes to doula work, all of these like practices, there's no way we can give all of the nuance. So what's one nugget that will set someone up for success or get them to think in a new way or to ask a different question or just go explore? Because there's so many different like threads to this work that you can find yourself in the best kind of rabbit holes, but it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Give too much, but it can just be really helpful to share the insight that's most resonating with you today.
Mm.
And I always
Yeah.
have like a little prayer or mantra when I post that is the people who need it will see it.
Yeah. Oh, I
Just
love that.
the pressure, right?
Mhm.
Especially as we're tapped into these algorithms and these vanity metrics and these numbers. It's like, nope, wipe all of that away. The people who need it will see it.
Mm. Yeah. That's so good and so true. And I like that reminder of just like give like little bits of like it doesn't have to be the whole picture, like I'm teaching workshops, you're teaching workshops, like, I'll teach a workshop about gut health and it's 2 hours long. And I'm like, this needs to be a 10-hour long class. But I'm like, okay, how can I distill this down? What can I share? Just like one little bit or a couple little key things that can make a difference for people. So I think that makes it more reachable for social media posts too. It's like just little teeny gems of help. Like it doesn't have to be the whole story of like everything.
Microdosing, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I love that. Yeah. I'm curious how do you create and plan your work? Like, because you're doing YouTube, you're making classes, you're selling products, you're on Instagram, you're writing newsletters. Like, are you getting help from other people? Is it just you and Tammy, like as a team? I'm always curious, like how people are working and getting support and working with other people. Cause I'm like, how do people do this?
Yeah, no, that's great. So we have a smaller team now, but it's primarily Tammy and I, and then Abby is our head coach and like student success coach for our Herbal Medicine for the Soul program. So she helps out a lot with just developing like the shell of the content. And then we have a schedule. So we have a schedule and like, Wednesday, that is our commitment to putting up YouTube videos. We try to plan ahead and like have some videos queued up. Inevitably, we have Wednesdays where it's like 9 o'clock, or what are we talking about today?
Yeah.
And so that adds a level of pressure, but then within pressure, there's creativity. So we figure that out, but that's our commitment, so that every Wednesday we do have a YouTube video that's going on our channel. And that day is when I'm writing for the email newsletter. And what else am I doing? It is a lot, right?
Yeah. Selling products too. Cause I've been wanting to have like a little mini product line, just like 3 things or something. But I'm like, how do people deal with shipping? And I don't know. It just seems like a lot.
Yeah, so right, we have a whole apothecary.
Yeah.
So we have our apothecary assistant, Nikayla. So she does most of the apothecary work. I still make a lot of the medicine. Tammy still makes a lot of the medicine too. So, and we like that. We've thought about expanding, especially with our previous line and doing contract manufacturing. And like, we really like small batch. I like being in the herbs. So everything is still handmade, and happily so. And we do. Tammy's excellent at operations and systems and structure. And so like that is really her domain in terms of putting together all of the systems that we need so that the apothecary runs smoothly. And like we have the inventory, we have, we use Shopify. So that's that's that database. We have another database. Like that's all her.
Nice.
That is all her. In terms of like the content creation, that's mostly me. And some of the workshop teaching, that's mostly me. And then like we teach every week inside of our mentorship program, Herbal Medicine.
Wow.
So that's mostly me, although we do she does coaching as well. It is a lot. It is a lot, but it's a lot, and like every day is different. And I can look forward to that kind of diversity in my week, where sometimes, I'm on the phone doing consultations or just chatting with people about whatever's going on. Other days we're recording, other days I'm making medicine, other days, we're writing, I'm writing a syllabus for a course that I want to teach. So it's creative, right? Like
Yeah.
it's creative, and it's also like, yes, it's structured, and it's also spirit-led, where I have my own practice, of meditation, and that tells me what I'm working on today. That I don't
Beautiful.
feel overwhelmed, and I don't feel like I'm getting behind. And I always have to remind myself, because I think being an entrepreneur, the list doesn't get shorter.
Mhm.
Like that doesn't ever happen.
I know.
There are so many things that need to get done. And I remind myself that, again, there's no jokes from the universe. So we don't get punished from the universe for, not getting everything done on the list, not doing it immediately. We don't get punished for, I need time to think this through, or I need time to plan it out, where sometimes there can be the pressure to go from idea to execution immediately. Or even if something is sold out, it's like, you know what, it's okay. I'm not in the right headspace to make medicine. I'm not going to make the medicine. It's okay. This is not Amazon. We do ship quickly, but if we are unable to, I will communicate, So it's like taking some of that pressure off, and like I get to do that, receive that in my meditation practice, where I know what I'm working on and I can trust that everything else is working out on its right schedule.
So beautiful. Yeah. It just, as you're speaking, it just makes me like take a deeper breath. I'm like, oh, okay, yes, it'll happen as it needs to happen. And I oftentimes think of my business as kind of like this separate like spirit or entity. It has its own like
Desire.
will of sorts and desires. And so it's interesting to see like, okay, you're listening to spirit, like, okay, what really needs to happen today? Because sometimes my ego has a to-do list and then my spirit has a totally different to-do list. It's like, calm down, ego. Like, please have a seat.
Different. And I think the more this like goes back to trusting the universe, like trusting your process, the more we listen to spirit's to-do list, because there's so much happening that's being coordinated on our behalf that we can't see. And the more we listen, we run into those moments where it's like, oh my goodness, I am so glad I did that 3 months ago. It didn't make any sense then, but it makes so much sense right now, because maybe an ask comes in, maybe an invitation for you to do something comes in, and you're like, I was just studying that. I just did, something on that. I always have those moments where it's like, I don't know why I'm diving into this right now, but I'm going to trust it because there's going to be that moment where it comes right back and it's necessary.
Yeah, that gives me chills. It's so good. I'm curious, kind of thinking of the spirit of your business. I love the name of it, Iwilla Remedy. I'm curious where that came from, because to me, I think of like willing a remedy, like that idea at the beginning that we talked about, like celebrating our wins and having kind of like a intention for bringing in healing, intention for finding our remedies. I'm curious if that was part of the name or where it came from.
Yeah. So when we lived in Brooklyn, we were actually going to name the company Brooklyn Remedy. Good thing we moved to Atlanta. And also, wanted something unique. And Iwilla is my middle name. And it means I will arise. So it is an affirmation. And it's very interesting because I hated it. Hated my name growing up. So much so, one of my friends, like in high school, I didn't want to share what my middle name was. I was spending the night at her house. She ended up calling my house, calling my parents saying, what's Selima's middle name? And she ran into the room and she said, Iwilla. And I just the tears, I was so embarrassed. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. And then I had an uncle who was more like a grandfather figure that I called Uncle Johnny. And he, 60 years my senior, has since transitioned. We've always had a really beautiful relationship. And he said, my middle name sounds like a disease.
Oh,
right? So, but it's interesting now, right? That it's like, oh, but I work in wellness and it means I will arise. So my full name means peaceful one who rises. And I wanted something unique. And that was a beautiful way for me to obviously embrace my name, but then also realize it's this beautiful affirmation that it's like, no, we have the will and we have the power to rise above our circumstances.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And your name is gorgeous. Selima Iwilla. Like, I always wanted my name to be like Elvira or something because my name is so normal. I was like, I want a fun name.
I will tell my mother that. She'll be so happy.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. So incredible. What is it like working with your partner in a business? Because I have my partner, my boyfriend, is starting to help me a little bit with my website, and it's such a gift and such a blessing to have like someone helping a little bit, but it's also challenging because we do things very differently. So I'm always curious, like, how do you navigate like relationship and like work partnership?
Yeah, it was not easy in those initial years because we really did, even before Iwilla Remedy, we had some other, initiatives that we tried to get off of the ground. So really right at the beginning of our relationship, we also like started kind of working together on these projects. Tons of arguing, so much arguing, agreements. But what's been at the heart, something that we've always done really well, is that we just keep talking. We will keep talking until we feel like there's resolution. And something that I learned along the way, that it's like we can understand each other, but we don't have to agree. It's like we don't have to agree to understand, totally understand your perspective. And then we also really just learned where we are individually strong and individually weak, and we complement each other in that regard. So like I was saying, Tammy's really great at the systems, the organization. And it's not that I am not disorganized. She is much better, at that Capricorn rising. She's
Oh,
rising. So like her mind just immediately goes to order. And my mind, Aquarius, it goes to like, just like, how can we help the world?
yes, I'm an Aquarius too.
Right. Yeah. Pisces, Sun, Aquarius, Mercury. And so the
Mm,
mind they're in different directions, but that's
mhm,
okay because that ends up being supportive. And so where, I can start and initiate a lot of things, I know that I'm going to get fatigued. And so Tammy's really great at setting up the system so that it has sustainability. And we used to call it like teamwork tango, and like knowing who's in charge and when. And sometimes it switches, right? Where it's like we might be working on, oh my goodness, getting our like business license, and we moved to Atlanta, like getting our business license and all of that stuff here for the space that we're in and working with the city. We totally had to completely switch because, one was getting overwhelmed, and it's like, okay, let's switch. And then the other
mhm.
takes it over. And then right at the final stretch, we're like in DeKalb County's office, and I'm about to lose it. She switches. So it's just the inefficiency, right? It's like, I cannot believe something that should have taken 6 weeks has taken 2 years. Why? And so we know each other well enough to know when the other person doesn't have it, I need to step in.
Mm.
Also know each other well enough to honestly say, like, I don't want to do this. Can you do it? Or to back off, right? When it's like, no, I have this and I'm gonna see it through. And when I need help, I'll ask for it. A lot of it's just communication and like honoring each other's strengths and weaknesses. And that feels good, right? Because then it's like, I know where I fall off. Tammy has the strength. And as long as I communicate that I need help now, she will like readily like come in and assist, and then the same for her. So
Oh, what a beautiful partnership. That's so gorgeous to be able to have that awareness, and I think that trading off is so key. Like that's something in working with postpartum families. They're always like, what can we do to make this work? Like it's so hard. And I'm like, anytime you can, like tap each other out, like tag out, take a nap. This person's on shift, and then, you know, in a couple hours you trade. Like anytime you can make things like that work, it really is helpful so that both people can be resourced for the greater good.
right, it's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm curious, just thinking of so much that you've worked through in the last few years through your business together? Like if there's a win that you want to celebrate, thinking of that idea of wins, like a recent win in your business.
Hmm. I'm looking around and I'm like, I'm in the win. So when we were in Brooklyn, and for so long, for many years, like our business was home based. And we've been in Atlanta, I think 7 years now. And when we first moved here, we thought it was time, like, okay, it's time to expand and to get into space. It wasn't the right time. But then funny, maybe like 2 years later, or maybe a year later, I don't remember. Tammy and I, we both had similar dreams, like on the same night. And I think she told hers first. And then I said, oh my goodness, I had the same dream in which we knew it was time to go get the space. And that weekend, because we already knew like around what area we wanted to be in, we started driving around and we saw our space. We couldn't get into the space, but we were standing in front of the building that we're now in and looking in, and both just had that feeling like, this is it, like this is the space. And so just started negotiation and all of that pretty much immediately. So the win, yeah, it's the space. It's like having this space, which really feels like a canvas. We get to try a number of different things. Obviously, the apothecary has a lot more space, and we have classroom space, and we have like YouTube space. Like I think more of our space is going to be devoted to like developing out YouTube and being able to have different stations so that we can do different kinds of content and more easily. But it just feels good. It feels good to have breathing room and to have separation between home and business, even though like we're always talking about business, right? Yeah, it's been space. That's the biggest win.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, that seems so exciting to have like your own. Is there a storefront element to it, or it's exclusively for like meetings, videos?
Yeah, so it could be storefront. We do have a retail area, but we don't keep retail hours. So if people want to, they can book an appointment and do in-person shopping with us, and it'll be like, a dedicated 15-20 minutes to them. But that was something that in starting Iwilla Remedy over 10 years ago, was really adamant about structuring our business in a way that fits our lifestyle. And so even though we moved into this space where it could be retail, with family time, like we don't want to keep retail hours. We don't want to work every Saturday and Sunday. We don't want to do that. And so we don't. And we don't have to. And I don't think anyone does, right? That it's like, that's not aligned with my lifestyle. Like I need time off. We go to bed early. Like we go to bed at 8 o'clock.
Nice.
So imagine if we kept the store open, until 7, and then we would have like no time with our son Niles, no family time. So it has the space to do that, but we choose to just keep it by appointment only because most of our operation, it's online. You can do anything with us online. Virtually.
That is so brilliant. I mean, I work in an apothecary part-time. It's retail, and it's such a gift to be there. And it makes me realize like I never want to have a retail space like that has like retail hours, because it is so much work. Like it is a huge chunk of time commitment where you can't do other things. You can't work on like YouTube videos and teaching classes and workshops. And, like, I think the way that you're structuring it, your business is so brilliant. So yeah, that's really smart.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's like reconfiguring, like, what do we want the emphasis of our business to be? And if it was retail, that would be fine. But it's like, no, it's education. And so retail and that ability to come in and shop with us, like that really does consume, if that's your structure, like you were saying, it consumes your whole day and then your whole week. And it's like, I would much rather pour that time into education.
Yeah, so smart. I mean, I love both. I love education, I love teaching, and I love being at someone else's storefront, but I don't want it to be my storefront. Because yeah, it's a huge Huge
And then we
commitment.
also like love to travel. So being able to
Mm,
say, okay, we're going here for 2 weeks. We're going to Cape Verde for, for 2 weeks. And everything continues because most of it's virtual. And then we can just communicate like, hey, no orders or shipping for 2 weeks.
mhm. Yeah. Beautiful. That's so refreshing to hear too, because I've been wanting to, do a little mini product line and I'm like, well, then I can't take trips. And it's like, yeah, you can. You just put a little notice on your website, like out of town for 2 weeks or whatever.
Right. We do that even over the holidays. Like there were people who wanted to come in. And you would think like holidays, people want to come in and shop. And that last 2 weeks of December, we are out. It's
Mhm.
like, sorry. But no.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's so smart. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, just thinking of maybe some of anybody that comes to mind that you're really grateful for or that has taught you a lot along this path.
So many.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's the students the most
Mm,
because of their questions and their bravery to trust this program and to trust us as guides and to be a part of their healing journey. But I learned probably the most from the people who are in our Herbal Medicine for the Soul community through their questions and through their own expertise, because it challenges me to, dive more deeply into a particular topic, to think more deeply. Yeah.
mm,
Courageous.
beautiful.
Like it's really courageous work for people to step into their own healing. And of course, it's courageous for us to step into our calling too. So everyone who says yes to that, like you're doing a super brave thing. And that's admirable.
Mm,
And because
yeah.
the program is so trauma healing heavy, knowing the things that people are working through and and actively working through it, it's like everyone becomes such a huge inspiration.
Oh, that's incredible. That seems like such a beautiful portal to be part of. Like, has it changed over time since you started it, or has it kind of remained the same? Or what's the structure like for that
Yeah,
course?
and that's the beautiful thing and why I say them too, because so much of it has been student led in the sense that, like, yes, we have our base curriculum. There's 120 hours of like learning herbal medicine and what it means to align with well-being and medical astrology. And then another like 130 hours of case studies and protocols. But every week there's newness in the program when we do our live calls. And they're always student led in the sense of what we're talking about has been a suggestion from the community. Very rarely am I like, let's do this. Like sometimes, especially if there's a lull and it's like, let's fill in the blanks, let's do this. But in most cases, it's someone saying, can we talk about this? Can we talk about this? And that's how it's developed. That's how we've developed so many of this repository of 100 case studies and 100 like calls that are dedicated to different topics like stillness, making a big leap, grief, boundaries. So it really just ebbs and flows from talking about things clinical and talking about, holistic practices to talking about just deep, big feelings, deep emotions to talking about human design to lab work. Like it's amazing.
Wow.
And it's because of them. Like
Yeah.
all I can say yes. And obviously like I go up and give my best to do whatever work that I need to do. But if they were silent, then there wouldn't be newness, right?
Mhm. Oh, that sounds so fun. I'm like, "Oh, I want to join the portal."
It
It
does. It
sounds
really does feel like that. And it feels like family. Like it feels like
Mhm.
family. We all look forward to our Thursday calls. It's such a nourishing space. And it's like, wow. So yeah, I don't
Mm.
take credit for it. It's like, yeah, as one of the creators, but it's like it really is like the people who come in make it so rich.
Mm. Beautiful. I'm curious what advice you would give yourself or someone else starting out in herbalism,
Ooh,
like a younger version of yourself or yeah, somebody just getting started.
that's a good one.
Like for me, I'm always like, I wish I had known about flower essences sooner and become a doula sooner, because I'm like, wow, if I had known about flower essences and Tulsi when I was a teenager, I would have had a dramatically different life.
Right.
And I love being a doula so much. I'm like, oh, I wish I had done that sooner, but it's all wonderful and like things happen in divine timing. But for me, those are like my two.
That's good. I would say, because the plants are such amazing guides, I would
Mm.
actually encourage people to do more meditation with plants,
Mm.
because we can get lost in the information, right? We can get lost in the materia medica, lost in the PubMed or in the PubMed articles, like lost in all the clinical research, thinking that the medicine is only about constituents and action and how we create these physiological shifts in the body. But the way that herbalism continues to expand in really profound ways is through those insights that you receive that are just to you in developing a relationship with this plant. Yeah, I would do that. I would meditate
Mm.
with plants just to see what's available, what's coming to you. And that also helps you develop your own intuition. That helps you reestablish trust in the universe, because you can trust nature. Yeah.
Beautiful. So good. So good. Oh, yes. And I feel like meditating with the plants is where so many good gems come from that space. And yeah, it can be so powerful. Even just sitting under a tree, just sit under a tree,
Just
see
it.
what comes to you.
Right. It's just like sit and receive, because we are so oriented to consuming
Mm.
that it's such a shift. We're like oriented to consume and to do. And so to allow space to just sit and to receive and to listen and to feel supported, that's radical, right?
Mm.
Like people are gonna be like, you want me to just go sit at a tree for 15 minutes a day? Yeah, right. Sit with, some herb in your hand for 15 minutes, light a candle and just sit,
Mm.
receive. That it feels so good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so powerful. I'm curious, Selima, any favorite tools or resources
Right.
or books or podcasts or anything that like you are really fed by?
Besides the plants, meditation,
I
candles.
mean, yeah, that's like that is a whole universe unto itself. That's amazing.
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, not because I'm not interested. Our son takes over the music in the car, which is fine. But I probably read more than
Mm.
I listen to podcasts, because also I want to hear my own voice too. And so sometimes listening to podcasts can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right now, I'll bring in the astrology, because right now I'm coming out of a Pluto square. So I was not prepared for the early 40s. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm 44, so
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it's a doozy.
for as much as like I'm in the charts and in astrology and teaching astrology, I was not like emotionally prepared for the Pluto square, Neptune square, which I'm in, Pluto square coming out of. And so much of what, and now I have this Saturn Sun conjunction. It's like, okay, great. So honestly, much that I've been in lately is just returning to some of the practices that didn't necessarily fall off of doing, but didn't do with as much frequency. So like my water is infused with crystals again.
Nice.
I'm taking my baths more frequently. And I always meditate. I'm returning to my altar more frequently. Like it's been a quiet time. That Pluto feels like a hurricane.
Mhm.
And you realize certain elements, particularly because it's in Capricorn, you realize certain elements of life were like, oh, this was actually a house of cards. It did not survive.
Mm.
Didn't survive the storm. And this Neptune square, I don't know if you've seen, well, it feels like I'm inside of clouds where I'm going to continue to take steps, but I don't know if they're actually steps forward.
Mhm.
But I'm going to continue to take steps. So it's been a time that's been requiring more quiet, even more so than I typically am, but just more quiet and introspection. And so that's what I'm turning to. I mean, I'm always reading. So if there's any kind of particular kind of book, we can ask that question.
Yeah, I'm always reading too. It's just so fun to like dive into different books. I mean, I'm always like digging into like self-help books, business books, herbal books. Like I love it all. Art books.
Nice
So
little rotation of like, there's always several of them. Pull out which one.
yeah, that makes sense. Well, as we're wrapping up, how can people support your work? I love everything that you're doing. How can people find you and connect with you and work with you and
Oh,
be enriched by your presence?
oh, thank you. Visit us on iwillaRemedy.com. That's our website. And all social media platforms are at Iwilla Remedy. The ones that we're most active on are Instagram, YouTube. We post on TikTok, but TikTok's like different.
Mhm, yeah, you know, I tip my toe into TikTok and I haven't figured it
Right,
out,
we're
but
still trying to figure it out. And my Facebook page is wide open. We have the Facebook page for the business as well, but send a friend request if you like. So it's really an open book. All of the platforms we're available, and support by sharing. If there's anything that resonates, honestly, share it.
amazing. Well, thank you so much, Selima. Anything else you want to be sure to mention before we close?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I feel like so enriched by everything that you said. I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to sit under a tree and meditate and drink some Tulsi.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a delight. Thanks so much for making time.
Thank you.